With you today, and it's a particular joy to have Bishop Harmon with us today. As you all know well, it's hard for the bishop to walk anywhere without stopping and greeting everyone, and he stopped to be with our cherubs, our 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds who were singing so that he could sing a verse. Without further ado, let me welcome and invite Bishop Harmon to come and speak to us and with us. Bishop Harmon.
My preference, what a volume. Maybe I should just hold it, right? It is good to actually see faces of people you know, and yours was this place was the first edifice that I visited while I was here, and so I have profound memories of you in that space in August. Now, I want to use this time for you actually to answer any questions you may have, and if I have some thoughts, I'm going to add something to it. But what is on your mind, and what would you like to know that we can talk about?
And if you'll raise your hand, I'll bring either the bishop or I will give you a microphone. And remember that we've got people watching online. And although those of us in the room might be able to hear you without a microphone, I promise the people online will not be able to hear you. So if you'll wait for a microphone, that'll be a real gift.
Say your name before, yes.
Marion, and this is just a comment. I really enjoy your Facebook posts after you've been to a small church or any church. It's really gratifying, and I feel like I'm getting to know other people. But thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Visits and views she's talking about. So visits. So I have to think about there are 5 things I look for when I go to a church, right? And so I'm discerning what those 5 things are. Most churches have all 5, but then I want to know in those places which one of those 5 things actually come up. It could change next time. One is, how is God, manifesting? Where are the places where the Holy Spirit is at work. So thank you. Other thoughts and questions? I may have a question for you if you don't have one for me, right?
Pat.
When you were here last, you talked about a dream you have for rural parishes and ways to perhaps help people who are locally there become priests or lead the parishes to solve some of the shortages that we've had. I'd love to hear more about your ideas on that and if it's starting to work.
So she wants to know, I said something where I can keep my promise, right? Yes. So indeed, we actually have a task force on small and rural churches. So there are 2 things I want you to think about: small and rural. And we have a partnership now with the Episcopal Church Foundation in the program called Pivot, right? So we are looking for 20 churches to start this Advent. We want some to self-identify themselves as small or rural, and then we might identify some as small, right? And what we're looking for in the program is to see how the church might be connected to its neighborhood. Churches don't grow because they're isolated from their community, right? So some other time when I'm back here, I would talk about the spirituality of place. When we are in a place, he knows this, I said that already to the vestry yesterday, we have to give a service to God and the community for the space we occupy, right? Hospitals occupy a space and they provide a service to the community. Schools, right, occupy a space. They provide what? We like them because they educate our children. Even banks, right? They take your money, but that's a service they offer to the community by keeping your money and making you pay. So we have to think about what is the service the church provides to the community for what? The space we occupy. if we can get small churches to think about that first, right? And then how we define God's mission is always God's mission, not ours. Mission is about discovery. Now, we can, once we discover what God's mission is for us, then we can do some visioning around that. Does that help the question? So we already start. Now, next in 2026, I'm hoping that we will have a commission or a committee. But at the convention in 2025, there will be a report. Long answer to the question, right? Other thoughts and questions? Let me give you this.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell you thank you for attending AYE with going up to Camp Mitchell. My husband picked up Augusta, and it was just great to see the bishop there. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I think I was blessed, more blessed than the kids were. Thank you. Thank you.
I really, your talk this morning really applied to me. Having a really bad time with my sister, the friendly or friendship or love, and that has to be forgiveness, and I have to get to that point, but that was very helpful this morning.
And what is your name?
Kathy Wilson.
Kathy. So, Kathy, I'm impressed a little bit because Kathy mentioned a word that I didn't speak about in my sermon today. I think that when we look at forgiveness, it frightens us because we think reconciliation and forgiveness are strange terms, or they're not. Here's what I think people this is not original to me. It's Desmond Tutu and his daughter has a book on this. I think it's important when we talk about we need to forgive even before people ask for forgiveness. It frees us to be who we are supposed to be. Don't wait for someone to come and say, I'm sorry for what I've done to you. Forgive them. So when they come, they'll be shocked that you already have done that. The other thing is that unforgiveness is a prison to be in. We imprison ourselves. Now, reconciliation is a different matter. I think when we enter the act or work of reconciliation, we do two things. We can release the relationship or we can renew the relationship. This is why people don't want to forgive, because they don't know what to do when they get to do the work of reconciliation. They think reconciliation means that you renew every time. It's okay to release the relationship because you have no intention to do harm. That makes sense? You release, you get to this intersection after you do the work of forgiveness and you reconcile, then you have to decide whether you want to renew or to release. Right? You don't have to go home with the person. But you have to love them. Right? Release them in love. All right. I hope that was helpful.
Good morning. My name's Elliot, and I remember seeing you just a few weeks ago at Pettigene, and I very much appreciate you being there. And you gave a very powerful morning speech. Even though I only had a half a cup of coffee, I was able to grasp it quite well. It was very
Can
deep.
you give him a whole cup this morning?
It's gone. But it gave me insight on where you were coming from, and I do appreciate you being there, and even as much or more so staying there and being curious about what things happen up on the mountain up there. And you stayed for some of the afternoon talks and chatted with people. And I also found out that you are a formidable ping pong player.
You sure?
I will anyway, thank you again.
Thank you. It's good to be in the mountaintop, right? The view is good there. Thank you so much. That's an old friend.
My name's Kathy, and my question is, what are your first impressions of Arkansas coming from the big bad city of Washington, D.C.?
You know, I mean, I can get to a place, drive 12 miles without spending 3 hours. I mean, but no, the geography is beautiful, right? The leaves, the trees, I know I have to spend a little bit. If I'm crying, not because I'm sad, I understand I'm trying to have a good relationship with the pollen, right? But no, honestly, Arkansas, the state, the place, we talk about spirituality as place, right? This place is where the Episcopal Church comes because of your history when it wants to have hard conversations around racism, reconciliation, diversity, and I can give you compassion. Yeah, this is a place. Your Bishop Brown, right, Bob Brown father, was way ahead of the Episcopal Church. When his colleagues in the House of Bishop was hiding under tables and behind the altar or behind the pulpit, he took a strong step. He paid a heavy price for it, right? Right. Not easy. But he led this church in what we all brag about now, that we are inclusive, right? We are diverse. It started here in Arkansas. We don't talk much about it, but you led the way. Mm-hmm. Look at so it's an important thing to own that you were on the cutting edge of compassion and love when the rest of the church was hiding. This place led.
My name is Carl. I was wondering, how would you compare spirituality in America compared to other places in the world that you have visited?
Oh, God. I was born outside the United States. So the missionaries from America wanted to be like the English missionaries, right? The Anglican Church. And guess where they went to establish the missionary effort? Liberia. So free slaves who left the United States settled in Liberia, for liberty, Liberia, freedom. In fact, the capital of the country was named after the 5th president of the United States. You know who he is? James Monroe. And so the Episcopal Church followed suit. So in 1822, 1816, ships were leaving the east coast of the United States from Georgia, South and North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, New Jersey, Maryland. In fact, I was born in Maryland, Liberia. There's Philadelphia, Liberia. There's Virginia, Liberia. Does it sound familiar? People were renaming the places they live here in America there. So your question is about spirituality, but I want to go to the point. So the church, the missionaries who went to Liberia, the first set, were not ordained. James and Elizabeth Thompson were not ordained. They established the first church. Then came the priests. Guess what the priests did? They started the second church, and they thought it was the first church. I was born and baptized, confirmed in that second church, where the priests who came as missionaries said, they have a big marble almost the size of that fireplace. And they said, this is our first African church. Right? That's what they said. But it was the second African church. They've forgotten the work that you did as lay people. So I don't think spirituality is quite different in terms of the way we approach, right? Places in the world. But the difference is this. The sense of suffering, right? It's quite different. I mean, if you look in the Eastern Church and the Coptic Church, right? Suffering is at the heart of their Christian spirituality. Am I getting? So if you read the gospel, when in baptism, we're supposed to do what? Die. And die is not easy. It's a kind of suffering. So I think in the West, there's less emphasis on suffering as a spiritual practice, right? We prefer to have the easy way out into this difficult calling that is ours. So that's what the distinct difference is, suffering. And when you look at the early church, right, suffering was part of that. Right? So I think now I don't mean you should go jump in front of a car and a train. That's not suffering. That's stupidity, right? Yeah. It's a different kind of S. Suffering is when I gave myself up so that what I do and say might be life-giving for somebody else and the community. That's our calling. Thank you.
Y'all are never this quiet when the bishop's not here.
Shall I ask you a question then? Laura, it's good to see you. Why do you come here? Why is this place important to you? I mean, you could be doing, thank you so much.
Probably a bad follow-up question. Is it right to maybe pray for selective memory loss about this forgiveness thing? Rather than have this list, or like, I don't remember any of that, you were forgiven, or, you know what I mean, a clean slate, or I remember what you done me wrong, but I forgive you. I mean,
So we're talking about forgiveness and remembering, right? Forgetting. Can we use 2F? I like little small words. So forgiveness and forgetting. That's what you want to talk about, right? We got the question? So forgiveness is not forgetting. There's no requirement that you forget. But in life, some things ought to be forgotten. Otherwise, you can't move forward, right? Some things need to be remembered. For example, if you've gotten burned by a fire, you need to remember that experience so you don't go back into it. So here's my phrase. We repeat what we do not repair. So some experiences have to be forgotten because that's the only way we can move forward in life. Yes. Right? We forget some things in order to move forward. But we remember some things, right, in order so that we don't lose ourselves totally, right? So we have to work with this forgetting and remembering. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's simply forgiveness. The way I know that a person or I'm forgiving someone when I don't remember the pain, right? If you are of a certain generation, your parents spanked you sometime, right? The kids don't know what that is now. But you remember being spanked and you just laugh. That means you have forgiven your parents. But if you remember that moment and you turn all red and you begin to shake, something's wrong right there, right? There's deep unforgiveness. So that makes sense? So don't worry about forgetting, but try not to do any harm. Other thoughts and questions? Yes. I'll give you this one. Let's take your question and we'll come here.
Oh, my.
If he's willing to.
Okay. You ask about why we come here. It fills my heart, and it's the same. I feel like these people are all my family, and I've been here for several years, and I just feel how fortunate that I found this church. It's really increased my faith.
Thank you. Did you all hear her? She's fortunate to be here, and she thinks of you as family. Thank you. Your question.
I'm Jerry Rose, and the reason why I'm here at St. Paul's is because of history. My deceased wife and I, we worked and lived in Jordan, sometimes for a year, sometimes for 3 to 4 months every year for, 15, 16 years. So we had to find a church, and there were lots of churches in the little city we lived, but it was all in Arabic. My wife wanted English, French, or German. That didn't count. So we drove, I think, 100-some miles, go to church. And the church we found was a little Anglican parish, about 50 to 75 people that met in the cathedral, Anglican Cathedral, which, services in Arabic. This little group was very involved in outreach in the sense of the big project we had was refugees. Jordan has always been a place of refugees for the past 80 years, and there were massive numbers coming in through the border. They had to be fed. The UN had its camps like it has for all these years, but they needed all kinds of services, and our little church was very much involved with that. So that was very revealing to me. And then one year we went to then go to live in England, where we went to the local church, and they were also very much involved with outreach and service. So when we came back to the United States, my wife, who had been a lifetime Presbyterian, said, we're going to St. Paul's because a very important part of their existence is service and helping.
Thank you. Engagement, like community engagement. You got it.
My name's Elliot. Why do I come here? Basically renewal every week as much as I can. I worship as you put it, a nice God, but better said, a kind God. And after visiting with you, I kind of see a totally different direction on how to view that. I hadn't seen that before.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you.
Bishop Harmon, my name's Rebecca. I come here because the love of God constrains me. There is love here. I can love here, and I am loved here. And when I get tired and busy and pull away, the love of God just woos me back here, and I'm very grateful.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Thoughts, questions?
I won't talk while I go here because I'll start crying. But I'm Episcopalian. One thing that I love, and this may sound wrong, but it's convenience. And what I mean by that is we go visit my daughter in New York City, and we can go to church, and we fall right in and feel comfortable, and nobody bats an eye. I was on a work trip in Greenwood, Mississippi last week, and the Episcopal Church was right next door. And before I made the 6-hour trip back, I went to Eucharist and, 10 o'clock Eucharist, and fell right in line. Nobody batted an eye. And when I say convenience, I guess it's more just I can find it everywhere. It's ubiquitous and just fall right in.
The Lord be with you. Yeah. It's community, right? It is community. Yeah, it's community. Hey, what? Thank you.
My name is Molly, and I have a more pragmatic question. So I've been volunteered-ish to help with St. Martin's, so I'm just curious what your thoughts are about St. Martin's and where you would like to see it go.
Thank you. That's college ministry, isn't it? So I was at St. Martin's yesterday, and I noticed that in one of your stained glass window, I think the rose window, that the symbols in it almost looks like what you have at St. Martin's, right? I have a sense it could be copied or reproduced. You are the closest parish to this university. You remember I said earlier that we have to give a service for the space we occupy? You occupy a lot of space here, almost a block, right? So it seems to me like a natural response to reach out there, especially when people say young people are the future of the church, even though I think they're the church now. So I think that it will be helpful that the leadership here contemplate an intentional relationship with the university, especially since we have a building there. How might this church be deeply connected? You already are, but more intentionally connected with the ministry happens. So if you were to ask me, I would recommend that you have a college ministry team or college committee here that will offer support to that place. I'm also asking you to help us to lead the way in terms of how we think of college ministry in the diocese, right? You have to have a place that can start to model. I think that college ministry is a ministry of presence. That's what it is at its heart, to be present with somebody. I'm hoping that if the students come here, some of you may serve as host family. They don't have to live in your house, but you might be able to say, when you come to church, you can sit by me. You can take them to lunch or invite them for Thanksgiving dinner. Be a host, right? Play host. To develop a relationship with them so they can be family with you when they're away. It is also an important time when the brain is maturing in a way that it doesn't happen at home. Kids get to come home without having a curfew, right? Mm-hmm. They get a chance to not have someone watching over them. You know, they might even experiment with alcohol, with a drink or two. They might get a chance to go out to a nightclub. But it's nice to have someone who can have these small conversations about how they're growing into themselves, right? I think of what you might do with college students is to go into a go-kart where you drive the car but it never gets off the road, right? The bumper rails. Yes, you can be that, where they have the freedom to bump against the edge of society, experimenting, exploring, thinking about who they might want to become. That kind of space, sacred, holy space, is what you can provide. So there's a building. So think through it, and I'm hoping that you can be partner with the diocese and becoming the model for what it can look. I was a college chaplain at 2 universities, but I also went to college. I mean, when I got there, I said to the college chaplain, my name is John Harmer, and I want to be a priest. That's what I took. The first day I got on campus, went to the chapel, and in fact, it was Nathan Baxter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I got there, and I introduced myself, and I said, I want to be a priest. You know, so he put me to work. But I think, you know, it is important for kids to see how you live your life, how you can be parent or be community to them. So there are lots of other things we can think about. So I hope that you will become a hub for the university, a place where young people can come and just be faithful, an extension, right? And we can go into the details, but just a broad kind of sense. Be community to them, be family to them.
We have about 2 or 3 more minutes, time for maybe one question or some reflection.
Okay.
Bishop Harmon, you asked why we're here. I just wanted to address why I'm Episcopalian. I love the tradition, the good, the bad, and the ugly of us.
Oh, we have ugliness too?
We do, and it's beautiful because it's God. That's why.
So you're Kim, right?
Yes, sir.
So she says good, and you said bad and ugly. So let's see how we can define the ugly and the bad, right? Michael Jackson said he's bad, but I think he means that he's good at what he does. Let's talk about ugliness. That's a little hard one for me. I can't find. But I would say Augustine. Augustine says that in terms of his relationship with God, he says, late have I loved you, beauty so ancient and so new, late have I loved you. I have heard my ugliness on the beauty of your creature. So Augustine says, all of what God has created is beautiful, but he's ugly, right? And so that's, I think, is the relationship between ugliness and beauty, that once I identify a bit of ugliness in myself, that means I've recognized God's beauty in the world. That's how I want to address that. Okay. Are we doing okay?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.